Sutekh is back. It's been a long time. I mean, it's got a lot of people very excited and also rather disappointed for obvious reasons, but I'm really excited. Sutekh is one of the most iconic villains in the show's history, on the same level as the likes of Morbius, the Toymaker, the terrible Zodin, and the Great Intelligence. He was only in one serial in the classic run, The Pyramids of Mars in the Tom Baker era, but he left an indelible mark on the show and on the fandom. I mean, this isn't just a Tom Baker story, this is the Tom Baker story, with some of the most iconic moments in the show's history. Sutekh was basically a guy in an over-the-top mask. It would have been so easy to mess this up, but the voice acting of Gabriel Wolf manages to pull it off. The man has the voice of a god. It's silky and intimidating, terrifying yet pragmatic. That, along with Tom Baker's performance, makes you believe that this is one of the most powerful entities the Doctor has ever faced. Even when imprisoned and immobilized, he has no trouble absolutely dominating the Fourth Doctor, humiliating him, making him grovel like an insect, before taking over his mind and using him as his puppet.
Your evil is my good. I am Sutekh the Destroyer. Where I tread, I leave nothing but dust and darkness. I find that good.
Classic Who nerds, like myself, have been waiting for New Who to do something with this for decades. And now it's finally happened, and it was, well, yeah, it was okay. But this was still the wankiest of fan wanks for us Classic Who fans. He's a big old doggo now, I love it. But what if you're not a Classic Who snob? What if you've only ever seen New Who? Or what if you're just starting now with this one season? A lot of new viewers had no idea who this guy was or why they should care. The last time Russell brought back a big villain like this, it was Davros, in the season 4 two-part finale. In those episodes, it built up to a reveal. Davros was a smaller part of a larger story. It didn't matter that I hadn't seen that much Classic Who up to that point. I knew everything I needed to know to still be engaged and invested and wanting to know more about this classic villain. The way Sutekh was reintroduced seemed to be done in a way that was engineered to piss everybody off. This whole season we were led to believe that this would be the return of Susan Foreman, the Doctor's actual granddaughter who left the show in the first Doctor era when he locked her out the TARDIS because she was making eyes at a bloke. Well, actually, to be fair, it was a lot more mutual than that. She loved the guy, but the Doctor knew that she would never leave the TARDIS, even if it meant sacrificing her own happiness, but he still abandoned her in post-apocalyptic London. Her return has been anticipated much longer than Sutekh's. We were expecting Susan to return. The reintroduction of Sutekh was a subversion of that expectation, and we all know how well those can go when they're used to troll the audience, especially when you're teasing something as anticipated as the return of Susan Bloody Foreman. So, Classic Who fans are pissed, New Who fans don't know enough to care. This is the first time I've ever seen the show bring back an old villain and require the audience to do homework in order to be invested. The special episode of Tales of the TARDIS helped. It had the Doctor telling Ruby and Mel his last encounter of Sutekh, while sitting around a miniature of the 13th Doctor's TARDIS console like it's a campfire, burn baby burn. It also featured a cut-down version of the Pyramids of Mars. This show is a spin-off in its own right, and a great way to get people interested in the classic era. But unless you happen to reside on Turf Island, I have no idea how you would see it without a VPN. Yeah, this show is just a UK thing. We don't get it in Australia. You also can't get it in the United States and a lot of other countries that Doctor Who is currently trying to appeal to. You're definitely looking out for the international audience there, Russell. I guess you could just watch The Pyramids of Mars, it's a classic after all, but I don't know where you'd stream it. Australia used to have access to the entirety of the classic run through BritBox, but we lost that at the start of the 60th anniversary special. Thankfully, I've kept a few souvenirs from my former life. They're heady days of internet piracy, but what about people who aren't cyber criminals? Did you think about them for even a moment, Russell? Consider this your comprehensive guide on all things Sutekh. I'm going to tell you who he is, what he is, his place in the canon, the extended media that Russell just decanonized, and I'm also going to delve into the ancient mythology in a second video, which will not be part of this video because this script became too long. All the mythology, by the way, can be considered canonical. It just makes things a lot more interesting, you'll see. And by the end of all this, we might be able to figure out that one question. Why the hell is Sutekh a dog now? Sutekh, more commonly known as Set, or the Greekified Seth, was a significant deity in ancient Egyptian mythology. He is one of their oldest gods, worshipped from the earliest periods through to the dynastic period and beyond. The Egyptian civilization lasted about 3,000 years. That is a long-ass time. But throughout, he was primarily the god of the desert, storms, disorder, violence, and foreigners. Depicted as a man with the head of a creature that nobody can figure out, it's referred to as the Set animal. Somewhere between an aardvark and a donkey, with flat ears and a long snout. Classic Who got it spot on, and the show doesn't exactly follow closely to the mythology, but it's close enough. Figures from mythology are pretty much the easiest to write. All you've got to do is take what's already stood the test of time and make it sci-fi. And that seems to be exactly what they did. Sutekh in the show is an Osiran, a powerful member of an ancient and immensely powerful race. He was the son of Geb, the Egyptian god of the earth, brother to Osiris, and husband to Nephthys, who was also his sister. The gods do that, I'm going to be mentioning a lot of incest. honest. I'm sorry. Sutekh was a warrior of great renown, head of the security of the Osiran court, and second and greatest of the three divine shields charged with the protection of Ra, the sentient sun. The Osirans acted sort of as space missionaries, choosing populations on planets that they deemed worthy and bestowing civilization upon them, teaching them how to farm, how to write, how to build, and in exchange they would worship them as gods and build monuments to their honor, which the Osirans would use to channel energy and extract power through belief. It's the sort of thing that the 10th Doctor did in the end of the season 3 finale. Yeah, no, that wasn't just something that Russell pulled out of his ass, which is a nice change. There was precedent for it. It is a thing that can happen, but it was so obscure that you would have to have recently binged everything Sutekh related in the show and the audios to get it. The Osirans came to Earth and found the Egyptians, who based their whole culture around them. This falls into Ancient Aliens, and it's sort of a problematic trope. And I'm not a huge fan of this trope. I love Stargate as much as The Next Millennial, don't get me wrong, love that show, especially Stargate Atlantis, but I'm not a fan of the origins of this one particular trope, which happens to be in white supremacy. Tangents aside, Sutekh killed his brother Osiris and took all his stuff because he was jealous of him getting all the praise for civilizing so many worlds, while he was basically the reason why they could do that in the first place. He declared himself as ruler of the Osirans, he tamed the forces of the outer desert, and he gained his mastery over death from the Cthulhu, a race from the dark times who brought death to the universe with a religious zeal. He had become more powerful and feared than any his race had ever produced, with the power to destroy planets at a whim. When Osiris was resurrected as Horus, Sutekh declared a time war for the Osiran throne. He destroyed his home world, Theta Osiris, and created a trail of destruction and carnage across half the galaxy, giving his gift of death freely to all who threatened his hegemony. He had a similar thing to Phanos. Life is too complicated. Too many choices, too many things to stress over, and oh so much false hope. His gift of death means freedom from the tyranny of hope and choice, replacing it with the ultimate certainty of death. His reign of destruction was burned into the cultural memory of numerous worlds. On Earth we remember him as Lucifer, the beast, the devil incarnate. Each culture has their own version, and it's all based on this one cosmic bastard. A lot of stuff goes on during this period. There's a lot about faction paradox, this thing in a series of novels that I probably will never get to reading. I'm sorry, there's a lot of extended media, and my time and funds are limited. That's why I didn't go into the 8th Doctor stuff in the Toymaker video. Call me a fake fan if you want. I've joked about it, but I'm not just going to adapt a wiki in order to do these videos. I'm not James Somerton. Overall, in the end, Horus would prevail. Leading an army of 740 warriors, they cornered Sutekh on Earth. They couldn't kill him, so they entombed him in a pyramid in Saqqara, Egypt. The Eye of Horus on Mars, sending a constant signal to sap him of his power, so he would never escape. There he would stay for 7,000 Earth years. He wasn't powerless though. He still had his mind, and his deeds were remembered in Egyptian mythology. He had a cult of followers who he was able to influence. Sutekh had taken on a new name. To the cults of ancient Egypt, he was known as the Red God, a god of total evil. Over the years, worship of the other gods faded, but the cult of the Red God survived the millennia. Until 1911, when the archaeologist/grave robber, they were the same thing back then, don't at me, Professor Marcus Scarman, while excavating a tomb, instead of finding treasures and a corpse, he found an Egyptian god. Sutekh killed Scarman and used his body as a puppet, using him as an avatar to do his bidding. With the help of a member of the cult of the Red God, he had a siren technology, service robots, a rocket, a time corridor thing that links to Sutekh's tomb, etc., brought to Scarman's home in England. The old priory that burnt down where unit headquarters will eventually be built. The plan was to shoot a rocket into the Eye of Horus on Mars, freeing Sutekh from his prison. He just didn't count on the Doctor showing up. The Doctor and Sarah managed to stop the launch, but Sutekh took control of the Doctor's mind and forced him to take the TARDIS to Mars, so Scarman could destroy the Eye on sight. And it worked. Sutekh was able to free himself. Then all he would need to do was enter the time corridor to the Priory and begin his reign of chaos and death anew. Thankfully, the Doctor had escaped his influence. He made it back to Earth before he exited the time corridor, and managed to delay his trip to the Priory by moving the corridor's threshold to the distant future, aging him to death. That's what the Doctor thought, but he survived. By clinging to the TARDIS, where he remained, growing in power from exposure to the time vortex, reaching godlike status, he became the one who waits, the head of the Pantheon on Discord, above the likes of the Trickster, the Mara, the Terrible Zodin, the Maestro, the Toymaker, who recoiled in fear the second he noticed his presence. There he stayed, biding his time for his chance to create a bunch of identical ladies in every place that the TARDIS lands in season 1 or 14 or whatever it wants to call itself, so he can make the Doctor think that one of them is his granddaughter Susan. She's a tech billionaire with a plan to revolutionize how we interact and connect with each other online. Topical, 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 apply once daily. All of them waiting to release their gift of death on the universe. Sutekh has been present for every episode after the Pyramids of Mars, including extended media. Sitting in plain sight, just vibing and watching the Doctor go about his adventures, none the wiser. This is a retcon with implications that changes how you view every single episode. This to me is worse than The Timeless Child. The Doctor has always been the Doctor regardless of where they came from. The Timeless Child or the Doctor is reset every 12 lifetimes. They get reverted back to a child and they live out their 13 lives over again as if they are just a normal Time Lord. It's basically like reincarnation, only there's no actual death. So to me, nothing has really changed. We just know a little bit more about their origin, which we probably were better off not knowing in the first place. But it's fine, it's done, stop complaining about it. That retcon has never negatively affected my enjoyment of any episode before the reveal outside of that season. But now, in every episode after Pyramids of Mars, I can't watch it without thinking Sutekh is there. It's like a splinter in my mind and I wish I can unlearn it. It's prime meme fodder though. I mean, some of these are bloody brilliant. It also means those extended media appearances have been erased from the canon. Thank you very much, Russell. There's this comic with the 10th Doctor that I hear is really good. Faction Paradox novels, which I haven't read and probably will never read. I'm sorry. But I think the biggest tragedy is the loss of the audio dramas, like the two-parter Killed the Doctor and The Age of Sutekh, where the 4th Doctor and Leela land in a society where everybody is addicted to their phones, which are made by a tech billionaire who is being influenced by Sutekh to revolutionize the way people connect and interact with each other online, helping Sutekh to grow in power so he could release his gift of death onto the universe, and that sounds awfully familiar. Russell! There is taking inspiration, but then there is straight up plagiarism. I hope you at least gave them a writing credit. I mean, this could be a case of accidental plagiarism. Tom Sky did a really decent video on this. It happens all the time. But this is simple enough to be suspicious. Give these ones a listen, by the way. They are incredible. There's this one bit where Sutekh is trying to scare Leela and he shows her his face, and this happens. Just listen.
How do I look, girl?
Like a horse in a dress. Shall I break you in?
Do I strike you as someone who is afraid of a knife? There's but a thought I could force you to cut your own throat. I could make you dust simply by breathing upon you.
Your breath is foul enough.
I am tempted to make sport of you, girl.
You are more than welcome to try. Can you trot like a horse? If so, you are welcome to catch me.
She also leads the homeless of the city who can't afford smartphones in glorious revolution, because as far as she's concerned, any society that allows so many people to live on the streets and go without food has lost the right to exist. This is why Leela is my favourite companion. She is bloody awesome. So that's Sutekh in Doctor Who, and I know what you're probably not asking yourself. What about Sutekh in mythology? Oh, don't you worry, mate, there's so much cool shit, we're only just getting started. Why not join me in part 2 for the shenanigans of Sutekh? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Click that bell like it owes you money, and I will see you in the next one.